Imagine waking up tomorrow and discovering that one object had quietly absorbed almost every tool you use on a daily basis. Your camera, map, calculator, alarm clock, diary. Then imagine that now our daily newspaper, music player, and even television are all condensed in one plastic rectangle. You do banking from it, shop anywhere on the planet, share every moment of your private life. That object becomes not just a Swiss Army knife, but also your primary source of entertainment. Your memory and sense of direction rely entirely on it. Your ability to tolerate boredom is entirely removed as we carry that object everywhere we go, keeping it within reach 24 hours a day. We check it hundreds of times without even thinking. Then ask yourself, has this made my life better, or have I simply become dependent on it? Because over the last 15 years, the smartphone hasn't just changed how we live. It's changed the way we think, communicate, remember. A tool so powerful it has irreparably altered the way we experience reality itself. And the strangest part, most of us haven't even noticed it's happened until it was too late. I remember back in the day when we'd use a camera to take photos. I know, crazy concept. If you wanted to capture a memory, you bought a device specifically designed for that purpose. Today, if you pull out an actual camera in public, people often look at you as if you're either a pretentious artist, a tourist, or someone desperately trying to relive the early 2000s. The same thing happened with almost everything else. We had GPS devices, MP3 players, alarm clocks, maps, calendars, pocket dictionaries, video cameras, flashlights, portable game console, notebooks. Now they're all inside your phone, ready to be accessed at one simple touch. On the surface, this sounds like progress, and in many ways it absolutely is. The smartphone is arguably the most useful consumer product ever created. But every convenience comes with a trade-off. And the trade-off is rarely obvious while it's happening. When technology replaces effort, it often replaces ability too. And if you stop using a skill, the skill weakens. It's that simple. And that's what makes the smartphone so fascinating. It didn't conquer us through force, it conquered us through convenience. For most of human history, tools had specific purposes. Each object occupied a small role in your life. Then the smartphone arrived and absorbed them all. What makes this remarkable isn't just the technology itself, it's how quickly we accepted it. Within little more than a decade, an object that didn't exist for most of human history became the center of modern life. Think about how often you touch your phone every day. Not because you need it, but because it's become automatic, almost like an involuntary reflex of your body. That's how the smartphone became the interface through which we experience reality. And when one device becomes responsible for such a vital task, it inevitably begins changing the person using it. Think about how many phone numbers you knew growing up. 10, 20, maybe more? Today most people struggle to recall their own number. Not because we're less intelligent, it's just that we no longer need to remember. The phone does that for us. Need directions? Open Google Maps. Want to learn a random fact? Google it. Don't want to forget a birthday? Calendar notification. And so on. Every individual decision seems harmless, but together they paint quite a bleak picture. We're increasingly outsourcing cognitive effort. The smartphone has become an external hard drive for the human brain. The problem is that memory isn't just storage. Memory is how ideas connect. It's how creativity works, wisdom develops. Knowledge becomes useful when it lives inside your mind, not when it lives one search away. When information exists externally, you're less likely to question ideas, less likely to understand concepts on a deeper level, and far less likely to retain them. We've become incredibly good at finding information, but not necessarily better at thinking about it, using our most powerful tool, the brain, to filter the bits we don't need and only keep the valuable parts. Another fascinating aspect is that getting lost used to be normal. Now, I know it seems like a bad thing, but hear me out. You'd miss a turn, misread a map, ask a stranger for directions, explore roads you didn't intend to take, and in the process, you'd build a mental map of the environment. Today, many people couldn't navigate their own city without Google Maps. The voice tells us where to go, where to turn. We don't even question the route anymore. We act like drivers and passengers at the same time. And this extends beyond navigation. Increasingly, technology tells us what to watch, what to buy, who to date, what to think about, and how to spend our free time. The less we decide for ourselves, the less we exercise the mental muscles responsible for judgment and independent thinking. Convenience is wonderful, but over-reliance creates dependency on the smartphone is now a global addiction we can't sober up from. And dependency, as we know, can have catastrophic consequences. The biggest change of all might actually be this. Boredom used to be unavoidable. While you wait for a train, stand in a line, waiting for your shift to end, boredom could creep up on you at any time, but that wasn't the problem. It's almost counterintuitive, but boredom can be surprisingly productive. Many of humanity's greatest ideas emerge during periods of mental wandering. When the brain isn't occupied, it begins making connections. You reflect upon ideas you normally wouldn't, imagine unthinkable things, create incredible art. Today, boredom lasts about 5 seconds. The moment discomfort appears, the phone comes out. You scroll, swipe, refresh, repeat. Who has never been to a party, you're bored, or your friend leaves you by yourself for 5 minutes and you start checking your emails like you're expecting an important communication from the King of England? We've become so accustomed to stimulation that many people experience silence as discomfort. It's the truth, we're constantly consuming content, in this moment too actually, but we're rarely processing what's actually going on. We want to be connected all the time, but rarely present in the moment. And perhaps that's why so many people feel mentally exhausted despite doing less physical work than any generation before them. Because the brain never truly gets a break. There's a strange divide that exists today, not between rich and poor or left and right, but between people who remember life before the smartphone and people who were born when it already was everywhere. If you're old enough, you remember a different world. You made plans with people in person. If someone didn't answer the phone, well, they simply weren't available. You got lost sometimes and you had to search for directions by yourself. You had to fetch for information in books or magazines. That forced you to spend hours outside because, let's be honest, there wasn't much else to do indoors. Millennials are perhaps the last generation to experience both worlds. We remember the analog world, and as we enter the digital one, we've seen the change in front of our very eyes. We've seen exactly what was lost on the altar of progress. Not that I'm trying to demonize technological advancement here, but it's not all sunshine and rainbows. Just think about when we were children and out of boredom we were trying to find the most creative way to stay entertained, which was an indirect way to generate participation. We rode bikes, played football, explored the woods, built things, made up stories. Sure, these things are still done today, but most people simply forget about the simple pleasures of life the moment they get their hands on their first smartphone and they seem to lose interest in everything else. Today, boredom often pushes people toward consumption, and the more brain rotten the content, the better. After all, what we're really after here is a way to numb the sense of emptiness in our souls, the lack of purpose we experience day by day. For the first time in human history, an entire generation has grown up without ever truly being disconnected, never left alone with their thoughts. And perhaps that's why older generations often feel nostalgic. Although some might say we romanticize the past way too much, and perhaps that's right to some extent. The past in fact wasn't perfect, but because certain experiences have become rare, They feel all the more magical. Waiting, wandering, getting lost, being fully present. Wouldn't it be wonderful to experience a moment without feeling the need to share it? What's fascinating is that many of the things we spend decades trying to eliminate, things silence, boredom, waiting, may have been way more valuable than we realized. Go to a concert today and look around for a second. Half the audience is watching the performance through a screen. People are recording memories they're barely experiencing. And be honest now, how many times you've actually rewatched those clips? And would you have even filmed them if you didn't want to post them on social media to begin with? We probably know the answers to these questions already. The ultimate irony is voluntarily owning a device designed to preserve memories while, in a twisted way, preventing us from forming them. When you're focused on capturing a moment, you're often paying less attention to the moment itself. The camera remembers, so you don't have to. Think about holidays, birthdays, family gatherings, sunsets. How many memories do you genuinely have of those things? And how many are photographs you've seen so many times they've become your memories? Some of the best experiences in life were never recorded. And perhaps that's precisely why they remain so vivid, because they existed only in your mind and not on a cloud server. The smartphone isn't really the problem, surprisingly enough. The business model behind it is. And it pains me to say it, but it's a brilliant one. Most apps don't make money when you stop using them. They make money when you keep using them. That's simple enough, right? That means their goal isn't efficiency, but attention. The attention they generate with every notification, every doom scroll, every reel played on a loop. That way, the algorithm learns more about you, what to recommend, and how to win the one thing they're all competing for, your focus, and the money they can squeeze out of you when you lose it. In the digital world, the most valuable resource isn't oil, it's exactly attention. Attention determines behavior, and it's directly connected to how much money tech companies make. The average person now consumes more information in a day than previous generations consumed in weeks. Yet, despite having access to unlimited knowledge, many people feel more distracted than ever, so it's not surprising the literacy rates are going down. To put it in metaphorical terms, we are drowning in information but starving for wisdom. Now, this may be the most important point in the entire video. Having access to information is not the same thing as understanding it, and that's quite clear. We know more facts than ever before, so why aren't we able to think more deeply? We are constantly communicating, so naturally our relationship should grow stronger, but somehow it doesn't feel that way. We consume endless content from other people, but rarely coming up with better ideas of our own. The smartphone creates an illusion of intelligence because answers are simply always available, whether they're right or completely wrong. Facts are always searchable, but that's not what determines intelligence. It's not about identifying where information is stored, anyone can do that, but rather knowing what to do with that information once it's found and collected. And that's a whole different game. A game that requires concentration, reflection, patience, virtues that are becoming increasingly scarce these days. For intellectual honesty, we also have to give credit to the extraordinary things we were able to access thanks to a smartphone. Convenience, connectivity, access to knowledge, opportunities unimaginable just 20 years ago. But every prize comes with a cost. And the costs are becoming harder to ignore as they're visibly outweighing the benefits. We've lost patience, our focus either shifts all the time or is lost entirely, not to mention our tolerance for boredom. We've lost some of our ability to sit quietly and simply exist. What the smartphone does is fragmenting that time into thousands of tiny pieces, making it nearly impossible to build a meaningful inner monologue, especially when your attention span is constantly shortened or interrupted. In the end, the smartphone is one of the greatest inventions in human history, and that's no question about it. It can connect the entire planet in an instant, translate languages, provide access to nearly all human knowledge, and still comfortably fit in your pocket. That alone is mind-blowing. But every tool changes the person using it, or in some cases reveals their true nature. The question isn't whether smartphones are good or bad. That's far too simplistic. The real question is, are we still using the tool, or is the tool now using us? Because the greatest trick the smartphone ever pulled wasn't fitting the world into the palm of our hands. It was convincing us that convenience and progress are always the same thing. And they aren't. Sometimes the things that make life easier also make us weaker. But don't think the challenge is throwing away your phone. The real challenge is making sure the most powerful technology ever created remains a servant rather than a master we blindly obey to. And if you felt the urge to check your phone several times while watching this video, you might already have your answer.